Hi, folks, here at Champion Sports Radio. We are really excited about the upcoming baseball season. We've got a lot of talented teams on tap. So we want to sit down with each of the four play-by-play voices of the four teams we broadcast for and get you ready and prepared for what should be an exciting 2023 baseball broadcast season on Champion Sports Radio. All right, now let's turn our attention to the top-ranked team of the four that we cover. That's the Hebron Hawks. A lot of folks wouldn't have thought that coming into the year, but this is a talented team that pushed Prosper to 3 games in the bi-district round a year ago. Almost everybody's back, and they've even gotten better. Please be joined by Pete Nielsen, who does our play-by-play coverage for Hebron baseball here on Champion Sports Radio and CSR TV. Peter, tell me if this team is as good as everybody thinks they're going to be, and what are you looking for, and what do you expect from the Hawks this season?
Well, Thomas, thanks for having me and welcome in everybody. But I think the key to this team is not going to be the pitching. I think the pitching is established. They have probably 2 Division I starters right now, another one who will be a Division I starter, and the other 2 are on their way to junior college. I think what's going to happen for this team is, will they hit enough? And it starts with Lane Hayworth. It starts with Aiden Howard, 2 guys that returned from a team that battled last year, lost a lot of close games, but in the end, it came that they just did not hit enough. They pushed Prosper that to game 3 and were an out away from winning that game and lost very disappointing game. But to say this team is loaded, it is an understatement. It comes down to whether they're going to hit and be able to score some runs.
And you know, what do they say? Pitching and defense, that's what wins games. You still got to be able to scratch across some runs. Let's talk about that pitching staff who has had a phenomenal start to the 2023 campaign, haven't they, Peter?
Unbelievable. Back to back no hitters in the first weekend. And a guy that started the first game that, as I was looking through things, I wouldn't have picked him to be your first starter, but Will Pete Patterson is now throwing up over 90 miles an hour left-hander, and he's just dirty. He has more movement. He's a typical lefty, Thomas. And you know what we say about lefties? It's hard for them to throw the ball straight, and he does. And it's got all kinds of movement on it. And you bring a kid in by the name of Gardner Rice who has a curveball that has more break on it than you'll see it in most college games. And if he can control that curveball, the combination of his hitting spots and Will Patterson, starting the game, you got that righty lefty, that's pretty good. And I haven't even mentioned the young man that was their Tuesday starter last year, Marcos Paz, and he's probably going to be the Friday starter now if you read through things. And as a 10th grader last year, he was your Tuesday starter and kind of ran out of gas as the season went on, but he was good all year. And wait, there's a young man that's going to go play baseball at LSU that was part of the program a couple of years ago, left, but now it's back, and I'm talking about MJ Sal. And you have to find a place for MJ to go too. Not only will he play shortstop for this team, you don't need 3 starters, but it's great to have those options. And I didn't even mention a bunch of the other kids that they're just so loaded. Tyler Dobbs, another left-hander that was so good last year. Just so many options for Coach Stone to go to. And, again, the pitching's going to be great.
Well, you can never have too much pitching. You mentioned Dobbs. He was so great down the stretch in key moments and key situations as well. So if he's a quote-unquote afterthought of how deep this staff is, that bodes really well for Steve Stone. Coach Stone had a great run in the 4 or 5 years ago, had that group that was together for several years in a row. This is another one of those times, and he's about the only one left from that original Hebron staff or even teachers. Karen Keeney and I think Steve Stone are the only coaches left. I think there's also an English teacher that helped open the school all those years ago, 23 years ago. So there's all the talk about, I don't know, how many more years does he have? But with a team this loaded, I mean, Coach Stone has got to be thinking, life's pretty good. Why am I going to do anything different?
He wasn't going anywhere this year. They are just, you go around the field, and at first base you got a returner in Ian McCracken. At second base you got Cade Binion, who is also on his way to play college baseball at North Central. Brady Richardson, who was the shortstop last year, it sounds like will be the third baseman. Patrick Creighton, who is the other shortstop, I think is going to be the left fielder this year. And then, of course, we mentioned Lane Hayworth, who's on his way to Wichita State, and Aiden Howard, who's only going to Dallas Baptist University. And those last two guys, remember, they've been part of this program since ninth graders. And, you look through this roster and you look through where these young men are going to go in a couple of years. You got two kids going to Wichita State. Remember, I mentioned Tyler Dobbs, and I don't know when he's going to pitch, but he will pitch. He's going to Wichita State along with Hayworth. But then, Aiden Howard, all you see is the numbers throughout the summer, playing baseball all summer. And he's starting to bulk up, and his body's catching up. His ability is catching up to his body, and he's really pounding the baseball.
It's funny going into it. They're ranked second in the region behind only Carroll, and I don't care who you are. Carroll's going to be ranked number one until somebody can knock off the Dragons, and what Coach Vukan has built there is really special. But one of the websites we enjoy the most because they really connect with coaches is THSB, txhighschoolbaseball.com. So they're the ones that have the Hawks ranked second in the region, and that means that puts them first in the district. Hot on their heels, Marcus, and then Flower Mound, and then Coppell. It's going to be a bloodbath in 6A. It's going to be interesting to see all this play out. What if you had to be a guessing man right now? Where do you think the Hawks end up? And I don't know. It's also a tough matchup with the bi-district showdown with 5-6A. It may be some of the biggest games right out of the chute for these two districts.
Well, if you look now just take a look at District 6A standings right now, and there's really only one team that's struggling right now, and that's Plano East, and that they're 1-6. But if you go through where these teams sit right now, the Hawks open up with home and home against Coppell a week from tonight, game one. Yep, that's right. 1 week from tonight. We're a little jacked up. I don't know if you can tell. But then, Coppell, they play a tough schedule. They're 5-4, and they're always going to be good. But you look around the rest of this district, the team that you get to cover in Flower Mound, Danny Wallace, and that bunch, they just are loaded again. They're 9-1, and I believe Marcus was actually ranked number 2 in this district. I haven't mentioned them. They're 7-2, and Plano is 7-0 to start the season. So you look at this competition, and if I had to pick 4, it would be those 4. It'd be Hebron, Flower Mound, Plano, and Marcus being playoff teams if we had to make a prediction this early on. But we've seen it, and it's going to change. And the fact that no one's talking about the Plano Wildcats, and they're 7-0, Coach Kramer might have things going on over there on Independence right down the block from your house.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see what happens in this district. The bad news is there are going to be some really good baseball teams left out when we get to May. But the good news for us is over the next 7 weeks, we're going to have some great baseball on tap for folks. Thanks so much, Peter. Hope you enjoy the rest of the season.
Thanks, Tom. Look forward to it. Have a great call. Have a great time.
That's Pete Nielsen, play-by-play voice of the Hebron Hawks.